Hi, and welcome to Lil Troyer Farm YouTube channel. My name is Amanda, and I love sharing realistic farm experiences with others through videos on YouTube, as well as with my Patreon members. We live in northern British Columbia, in Canada, and yes, when I say northern, I mean it. Roughly a 13-and-a-half-hour drive from Vancouver, and about 6 hours to cross over the Yukon border. We have a little over 10 acres and have been starting from scratch to get our property ready for animals. We are nowhere near done all the projects around our place, so make sure you hit the subscribe button for all the fun adventures with goats, horses, and the never-ending farm project. Now, I want to apologize in advance for the fact that I have only vertical pictures and vertical videos here, but I did not have a YouTube channel at the time that we brought these guys home, and so I had to dig through the archives and find some good ones so that you guys could at least see little snippets of the journey that it took us on to bring these guys home.
He wants to be friends.
In January of 2024, I saw a post on a local animal rescue page. There were some horses nearby that needed to be rehomed as quickly as possible. I got in touch with the right person who could let me come take a look at them. It was a cold day in January in the middle of a minus 20 to minus 30 degrees Celsius cold snap. After getting to know the individual who was helping to rehome the horses, they practically begged me to take them home with me. After talking it over with my husband, calling around to find some hay on short notice, we decided to bring them home. Unfortunately, it proved very challenging to get them from point A to point B. Only one of them was friendly and halter broke. The other one was very timid and fed off the energy of the crazy young stud that they were with. Then there was a third one, extremely lame, limping around, and very obviously pregnant. The young filly was so friendly and very easy to handle. It was very obvious that no one had taught her any manners, though, and would try to bite and walk through anyone who was in her way. When it came time to bring them home, she was the first one in the trailer. The red roan mare proved to be much more challenging, and didn't end up coming home with us that first trip. She was so wound up, and it appeared like she hadn't been handled much at all. She would tolerate sniffing your hand, maybe letting us rub her nose and briefly touch her neck on her left side, but on her right side she was very, very flighty. Eventually, the mares got settled in at our place. We hand-fed them twice a day, sun or snowstorm, minus 50 degrees Celsius or minus 10. Every single day, making sure that we invested time in just being around them. Within the first few weeks, we saw a lot of really positive changes in the red roan mare, who was finally named Jezzy. Without the influence of being run around by a crazy stud, we saw a brand new side of her. She was soft, sensitive, and oh so smart. Slowly we worked on petting her, eventually working our way up to introducing the halter. The first half a dozen times or so she would run when we would try to work with her, but with consistency she began to settle down faster and faster when it was time to be haltered. Because these mares were with a stud until the end of January, we knew there was a very high possibility that one or both of them could be pregnant. The very lame mare that came home with us was confirmed pregnant in the beginning of March, and on June 29th, Sugar had an adorable little filly who was named Ladybug. It has been gnawing at us for quite some time, wondering if Jezzy and the little blue roan mare, whose name is Dottie, that they could be pregnant too. It was nearing the end of July, and neither of them were developing an udder, so if they were in fact pregnant, we could easily be looking at September foals. Finally, after much discussion about the cost of taking them to the vet to have them preg checked, we finally decided to go for it. We needed to know what we might need to prepare for. If they were pregnant and looked like they were going to be having early winter foals, then that would add to the list of the projects that we would have to tackle before winter hit. It was truly kind of hilarious to have Dottie go from being considered a black filly to all of a sudden she looked very, very blue roan to all of a sudden she shedded out completely gray, except for her black points on her leg and her face and her mane and her tail. But it was wild, the changes that she went through this spring. So July 22nd rolled around and we haltered up Jezzy and Dottie and got them all prepped and ready to go for an hour-long drive to the vet clinic nearby. I know I tend to apologize for things frequently on here, but I can't help it. I'm sincerely so embarrassed by the mess in our yard and just the clutter everywhere. It really, really needs to be worked on. It's just, if you've been following along for any length of time, you know that I'm also a mom of 3 little kids, and so sometimes the mess inside the house and the mess outside the house just becomes overwhelming, and it just can't all be tackled at the same time. So there are changes that need to be made, there are improvements that we're working on, but like I've said many times before, it is truly a one thing at a time and as we are able to. But I do want to apologize for showing you the clutter around my home. Welcome to our life. She's about 4. Yeah, just in case. For those of you who have never had an animal ultrasounded before, or maybe never a horse specifically, this is very, very common that they have to go in rectally with an ultrasound probe to be able to get the proper angle to look around at all of the different places where potentially a foal could be hiding.
Go over the brim of the pelvis, all we're really seeing is intestines.
Yeah.
So kind of those white lines are more fluid, and then the black is air.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's that big follicle again. More air interfering with everything. But yeah, I can run all the way back and forth through that uterus, and it's all there.
Okay.
Because normally you'd see, this is pretty salt and pepper. This is the bladder fluid. Normally it's quite a bit darker in the uterus.
Okay.
But it would definitely be that size, and you'd see the line through it. So it looks like she is open.
All right.
She's in heat and ready to go. And her uterus looks good. I don't see any cysts or anything like that in there.
Okay.
It looks quite nice.
So much to the shock of the vet as well, by looking at her, Dottie was in fact not pregnant. While we were there, we asked the vet to take a quick look at Jezzy's teeth because we didn't know how old she was, and the vet figured that she was about 11 years old, give or take maybe a year or two. No, you gotta stay inside. So, what's the final verdict? We know that Dottie, no baby in her belly, despite the fact that she looked pregnant. For Jezzy, the results were in. She was also not pregnant, which means that we can focus on training them, doing all of their hoof care, and just focusing on giving them the best chance at the brightest future possible.